going on, everybody? I'm dressed for, I guess, my area now. Like some Hawaiian fit I thrifted, but welcome to another installment of Royal versus the World, where I have laundry going behind me. Um, I feel like I'm just gonna shoot off the top of my head on this one, but I had a conversation with my dad yesterday, and kind of something that me and him both kind of resonate on, although I guess our ways of dealing with it are entirely polar opposite ways of dealing with the situation, is being an outlier um, socially in terms of whether you're quirky, whether you're neurodivergent, which more so my case, your sexuality, anything that makes you different from, I like to call them normies, but different from the layman's man, the normal person. Normal. And that's what I want to talk about today is how I've dealt with being an outlier, and kind of I would even kind of go into like some my own stories and my wake up call in accepting my abnormalities, my quirkiness, my, I don't know, things that make me me, right? But when I was talking to my father, we were just kind of talking about like how he used to be when he was younger, and going to clubs and all that. And he, something that stuck out in my mind of what he thought about himself and what he thinks about himself probably now, is he said he was always an anomaly, right? And kind of going into why he may have thought that is he lived in a time where being biracial was a very hard experience, where, you know, you're bullied for being lighter skinned, a lot of colorism. And that's something he dealt with as a child, he's told me, and that set his perception of the world, right? And I think the biggest thing when dealing with this awareness, right? When you are aware that you're different, you're aware that you don't fit in, there are really three ways you can react to it, right? And I'll compare my way, my bad way, my father's way, and what I perceive to be the best way of dealing with being different. My father, it made him angsty, it made him antagonistic, it made him, I wouldn't say hateful, but it made him want not to think that he was wrong, but the world was wrong. And when you have a perception like that, it's kind of selfish. And I don't want to speak for my father, but this is what my perception of what we've spoken of over the years is how I see it as. It's I'm not wrong, the world's wrong, right? And you start to have this paradigm and view of the world where you think the world, if the world was like your vision, it would be better. And it makes it hard for you to accept the differences of other people. It makes it hard for you to kind of put yourself in shoes of normal people, right? But then also, it makes sense when you're, in his case, constantly being attacked by your perception, right? The world is attacking you, and it becomes the world's problem. And I understand that. It is easy to be in a place of the world where you think everyone is the enemy, where the world is the enemy, where there is no hope, where there is no green line, and you're just a one man against the world. Kind of what a little backstory of why I call this channel Roy versus the World is me not saying I see myself against the world, but it's my perception versus the world's perception. And that's a bad way of living though. When you think the world is wrong and you're right, kind of makes you blind to your own self. And also it kind of makes you conservative and shielding your own, perception. Now, for me, when I was younger, I think the biggest thing, the second way of dealing with this is conforming. So, like, I used to think that if I knew more about the world, if I can, like, connect with people and, like, m- match their energy, whether that's, like, learning about their interests, whether it be, like, anime or in sixth grade, it was My Little Pony and, well, I didn't know at the time, but, yeah, furries and role play. Like, I just thought that if I was open enough and if I learned enough and if I kind of attached these things and knowledge and just strapped it to me like a Boy Scout straps, the patches that I would be deserving if I conformed and I fit in. And I think for me, I guess the breaking point was really in high school where I was surrounded by people who I was conforming for, I was entertaining, but at the end of the day, they didn't respect me for who I was. No matter what I did to make them feel comfortable, they were never going to accept me because it wasn't the things that I did, it was me that was the thing that they were rejecting. And I feel like that's kind of hard to accept sometimes. Like, again, you think it's easy to conform, but conforming again doesn't earn you a community, right? It's very fragile. It's very surface level. It's not deep. And really, it's kind of like making relationships for a certain place and time. Not to say that's an issue, but having a relationship with only someone just because they play pickleball with you and that's their only purpose. It's like putting people into boxes and they're just fulfilling needs. You're just fulfilling other people's needs and it's not a mutual relationship, right? You're kind of a means to an end. When you think true friendship is when someone sees you as an end in itself, as they see you as a complete person that doesn't need fixing, that doesn't need to conform to them. Maybe they want you to be even more fulfilled and kind of be more yourself. But that was my issue. So, like, I want to kind of go into the story. So, like, I mean, I have been moving around a lot. So that's my experience of being like, well, early on in life, I was always different because I was in a gifted program and I was smarter. And typically, when you separate children, it makes children jealous. And I understood that. But it just got to a point to where I was kind of annoyed because I was never one to be prideful of my intelligence like my other peers tend to do, where they thought they were better than. I just thought that, well, we all could be doing this. Like, why can't we all be the same? That was my mentality for a long time. And even now, I think I can relate to anybody because of that, because I never put myself on a pedestal. I knew that I was different, but at the same time, everyone's different. And I feel like that's what helped me at a young age. But also made me feel sad sometimes where it's like, well, I accept other people for the way they are. What's wrong with the way I am, you know? And it was made harder just because I moved around a lot. Like I never got to like from what I saw like later in high school, people knew each other since elementary school and they had these long-term relationships. I like to call it continuity. They had continuity and I only my longest friendship didn't really begin until middle school. And the friends that I met in high school were just friends from other schools I went to and journeyed on the way, right? So it was very interesting high school. I think that everything came to like a circle because I was always in my space and I always knew how to find my people or get around people, but I did have a sense of envy for those who I saw that hung out and went to slumber parties with each other, went to the mall or went out to eat together. Like that was like my dream. Like I was like, dang, I want to have that too. And in high school, there was like this group of people who I knew from sixth grade, my first middle school, and I wanted to like catch up with them, but also it was kind of wrong because I had an intention. There was like someone who I liked who was a part of the group, so I was like, man, well, you guys are my old friends, and it kind of my comfort spot, but they weren't really my friends, but like I knew them, so I was like, oh my God, like dudes from sixth grade, let me stick with you guys in high school the first year because I don't know anyone here. I'm the only one from my middle school here. Um, and it went horribly. It went horribly. Honestly, I think, and it was me trying to conform and entertain, and I would ignore like the passive aggressiveness, the devaluing, or like the signs of how they didn't value me, are the times that they would like leave me out of things and not invite me out, or they would invite like this new person, and I would feel a certain type of way. I'm like, dang, like I'm here. Like, why don't you like accept me? Like, accept me, right? So I was playing the clown. I was being their little laughing stock, and I was aware of it too, right? But I guess the pride in me just thought I could like pierce the veil, like pierce through the walls. But I think one thing it taught me is that people who are for you will make it clear. And of course, there's some people who are harder to break through, but showing consideration is very clear. And there's nothing to be uh, perceived. Like you won't be confused if someone considers you. It's like a feeling, a comfort that you get from it. And I guess it ended up falling apart one day. Like I was again trying to force my way there, and they just didn't accept me. And it came to a head where again I was doing something petty, and I pulled up to like a study session. I brought my friends and was trying to be cool. But again, they're making fun of me. I was the laughing stock, and it really came to a head when they were saying the meanest things. They were so open about it, right? Because they didn't have any walls at school. We were out at some random restaurant, and I hurt, man. And I remember I was with my best friend John and my friends at the time, Clement and Jared. You know, they said something very mean, and it hurt me, and I would have fought it, and I would have lashed out in anger, but I just walked away because I knew that's not me, right? That's me going low. But I remember how I felt, and I remember I just cried. I cried to my friends. I was like, man, like those people have been meaning me for so long, and I just been accepting it, bro. And it's like, and my friend was angry too because it was very disrespectful. Like that was the one time my best friend John was ready to throw hands because that's how bad and blatant it was. And my lesson that I learned from that experience, and sorry it was like long to get there, but accept people who accept me and not conforming. And I think it was made better too because I ended up leaving that high school during my sophomore year and going to school with my friend John. But I remember having a mindset and also a little bit of regret because there were people at that school in ninth grade who actually liked me. And I chose the people who didn't even acknowledge me over them. And I remember it was one moment in lunch. Like I used to sit at the lunch table with people who just made fun of me, didn't really want me there. I was just kind of like a third wheel all the time, right? And one day I remember my friends from my gym class and health class, they were like, yo, they were like, come on, bro, you come over here with us. And I made a choice and I made the wrong choice. And like I still see it in my head now, like in the lunch table, they're chilling, all my people who really mess with me. And I chose the people who didn't even acknowledge my worth as a person. So, ever since then, like when I left, I remember I was walking home from school my last day. Like it was like one of the first weeks of school, um, sophomore year. And it's my last day there, and I had to walk home because we ended up moving. And I walked home, and I remember seeing like this butterfly, yellow butterfly cross. And I knew like butterflies are kind of like a sign of change. And I just started crying. And I was like, I'm never gonna like put myself in that situation again. I'm gonna be me, and if people don't accept it, that's their problem. And the people who come to me, come to me. And ever since then, I just been full about being myself. And I think that's the part where I would say it leads to the third route. So like we kind of go over it again, right? So my father's perception is make everyone the world, everyone's the problem, and you kind of isolate yourself, right? The second is conforming. Conforming may make you feel good in the moment, but again, you're not really being acknowledged. You're really just putting yourself into a box and contorting to what they want you to be. And the last thing is not conforming, not isolation, just being open to yourself, not having expectations, and taking the people who come to you, finding your own people. And it's a long journey. Like I would say like socially, right? Most of my close friends I found on the internet, on Discord or through a video game. Um, and yeah, sometimes they didn't last long, but those were the connections I made. Those are the ways where I found people who were like me. And I think the thing is just radically accepting yourself and also accepting those who accept you, who come into your life and who show you love. And to build on those relationships. Because again, mentioned earlier, continuity is very important in building relationships. And I think one thing I've experienced is like sometimes the time isn't right, sometimes the environment isn't right, but you can always make an effort to connect with someone. You can always try to hold the relationship. Like I used to think like, oh, if I moved, I just lose my friend. I gotta start over again. But I remember one day I messaged my friend John when I was in ninth grade. And I was like, and it was like so innocent when I think of it. And I was like, I messaged him because we haven't talked. I was like, yo, we haven't talked in a while. I was like, and I messaged him. I was like, are we still friends? And he was like, yeah, bro. And man, it makes me, oh man, it's making me want to cry thinking about it. Cause, dude, John, my best friend John's been in my life for so long, bro. Like over like 12 years. I never thought I could have a friend that long. Like that was like one of the things, one of the moments I'll always remember. Like I was very vulnerable too, right? So I think now in my stage of life, yeah, I meet people and I'm open to people, but I'm not conforming to other people, you know? Yeah, I'll meet someone where they are and I'll match their energy and out of consideration, but I'm not going to change who I am for anyone else. Um, it's all about finding people who accept you for who you are and also people who are there to for your betterment, who want your betterment, who care about you, and people who will be honest with you and who will tell you when you're slipping up, who will confront you when you are running away, you know? And again, friends don't last forever, not all the time, you know? But when you do have someone who really cares for you and someone you want in your life, you gotta make an effort, you know? I know for me, it does get hard sometimes, especially if the person isn't there, because life is moving. Like I'm trying to figure out my adult life right now, but you can always have time. Just like I'm making time right now to like record this video, you have time, and maybe they won't respond, but maybe like you just constantly reaching out and they'll see one day and they'll acknowledge it. Maybe everyone's in their own thing. So I would say just don't take it personally. But being different is no excuse for you to feel like you're alone because there's other people out there. There's so many different ways you can find people like you. And I feel like sometimes now I feel like I have like a sense. Like I can sense someone who's like me. Like it's hard to explain. Like there's like certain patterns or characteristics or mannerisms or something where I'm just like my heart feels like that's a kindred spirit. Like I need to sometimes it gets me I get too excited sometimes, but sometimes, I just reach out, or maybe they'll reach out, but you don't have to be alone. You don't have to be an anomaly. You don't have to be an outlier because the world is filled with people. There's a line from my favorite movie, um, Before Sunrise, where this mystic says, "We're all dust. We're all dust, stardust." Right? So all of us are just own little stars and shining. And maybe some people can't be a part of the constellation, right? Some people can't be a part of the constellation. Some people on the other side of the vacuum of space. The people who are with you, who are part of your constellation, who shine with you, are with you regardless. And sometimes, I would say most of the time, the biggest thing that gets in your way and makes you feel is your own story that you're telling. My father's story is that he's an anomaly, that he's an ice, makes him an isolationist and kind of feel like he's at war with the world. Then you have some people who feel like they are the issue, right? Again, they're the anomaly, and their perception is, let me conform, let me be like everyone else, let me contort and fold myself to fit into what they want me to be. And then there's the others, people like me and probably you who's watching this, and my friends, who accept that they are different and they shine in light of it all. So that was my little spill. Record this on my laptop this time. Maybe my audio's a little bit better. I got a mic right here. Um, hope you guys enjoy, and please let me know your experience about if you feel like you've been an outlier in things that you've done. I know some of you guys are my peers. For my peers who are watching this, I would just like to say thank you for being weird with me or being my friend. Or I hope that I've been a good friend to you, and I hope that I can continue to be a good friend. And just know that we're only friends because there's something in both of us or in us that's connected. And although we may not talk all the time, you guys are always on my mind. Whether it's my Discord friends from Lethal Streets, homeboys from my old job at Georgia Tech, my best friend John, you guys, John, Kevin, my somewhat close a friend, Emmanuel, like I'm there for y'all. You know what I'm saying? I'm there for y'all, and I'm glad that y'all accept me for being me, and just know I accept you for being you. And for the new friends, the people who are watching, I would love to see you shine. And maybe in these videos, the people who watch it, you get a glimpse of or see something in yourself reflected, and I don't know, makes makes you want to act on that knowledge. So yeah, see you all in the next video. This is Roy vs. the World. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, of course, and hit that notification bell. And look forward to more content. Um, I'm wrapping it out, just going. So yeah, peace.